Good morning, dear students of class 11 science. Once again, welcome to environmental science class. We are dealing with the chapter ecology, the second chapter. In the last class, we have learned about interdependence of species. We have talked about mutualism, right? We have talked about competitions, predations. Now today, we will begin with the topic energy flow, or we can say flow of energy. Clear? So today's topic is flow of energy. Okay. So we all know that the ultimate source of energy in our ecosystem, in our planet Earth, is the solar energy, the energy that comes from the sun, which is very, very important, right? Because it supports all the life present in our ecosystem. Clear? So the solar energy, which mainly reaches the surface of our Earth, right, is usually trapped by the autotrophs or by the green plants, but only a small amount of those solar energy are being trapped by the plant in order to perform the process of photosynthesis. The rest will be reflected back. Clear? So only small amount of those solar energy that reaches the surface of the earth is being trapped by the autotrophs or by the producer in order to perform the process of photosynthesis, the process by which the green plants are able to manufacture their food. Clear? So, whenever the green plants perform the process of photosynthesis and whenever they manufacture glucose or food, then solar energy will be converted into chemical energy and will be stored. Okay, that means the solar energy trapped by the producer, by the autotrophs, will be converted into chemical energy and will be stored. Clear? So that whenever the primary consumer will feed on the producer, so chemical energy will move to the producers. Clear? Okay. So those energy which is trapped by the producers or by the autotrophs now will move from one trophic level to the next trophic level. Trophic level we have already done in the previous classes. Clear? So from one trophic level to the next trophic level, the energy usually flows. Clear? But a minimum amount of energy will be lost whenever the energy will be transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level. Clear? So kindly keep this in mind that minimum amount of energy will only be transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level. Clear? So therefore the percentage of energy transferred from one trophic level to the next is called the ecological efficiency. Clear? So simple, nothing is there. Okay, simple. Solar energy is the ultimate life supporting system of the earth. Clear? Without the solar energy, no one can survive. So a small amount of those solar energy will be trapped by the green plants, by the producers, or we can say the autotrophs, so that they can perform the process of photosynthesis. So during this process, the plant will manufacture food. So the solar energy will be converted into chemical energy and will be stored. Clear? And this energy will be transferred from one trophic level to the next trophic level. And the percentage of energy which is being transferred from one trophic level to the next is called ecological efficiency. And the loss of energy, I'm telling you that whenever energy will be transferred from one trophic level to the next trophic level, energy will be lost in the form of heat because all the organisms has to carry out different physiological activities in order to survive, and in order to do that processes, energy is required, so energy will be lost. So therefore the loss of energy is directly proportional to the length of the food chain. Clear? That's most important thing. Okay, so now in the given figure you can see the trophic level, right? This we have done already in previous classes. So this is the first trophic level, we can say, occupied by the producers. Then we have got primary consumer, we have got secondary consumer, and we have got third or tertiary consumer. Clear? So this will come afterwards. So the pyramid of energy flow, We're dealing with now energy pyramid. So the pyramid of energy flow is the graphical representation of the loss of energy at each tropic level. Now, what do you mean by this? Because I'm telling you that whenever the energy will be transferred from producer to the herbivore, then a minimum amount of energy will be lost. And whenever the energy will be transferred from herbivore to omnivore, then minimum amount of energy will be lost. Similarly, when the energy will be transferred from omnivore to carnivore, then also the minimum amount of energy will be lost. So therefore, pyramid of energy flow is the graphical representation of the loss of energy at its tropic level. And in class 10 you have learned about the 10% flow of energy. Only 10% of energy will be transferred from one tropic level to the next tropic level, and therefore the maximum number of energy will be stored by the producers. Clear? Because they are the one who are performing the process of photosynthesis. Clear? So they are converting the solar energy into chemical energy and they're storing it. So whenever the herbivore will feed on the producers, then a small amount of energy will be lost. All right. So from herbivore to omnivore, similarly, the small amount of energy will be lost. So this process will usually goes on. Okay. So the different labels represents, looking tropic level, the different label represents different group of organisms that might compose a food chain. All right. So you can see the diagram over here. Clear? You can see the diagram over here. In the given diagram you can see the different group of organisms which occupy a different trophic level. Clear? So at the bottom you can see the producers, and at the top you can just above the producers you can see the herbivore, just above the herbivore you can see the omnivore, and above the omnivore you can see the carnivore. Clear? So the different label represents a different group of organisms that usually forms a food chain. And what is food chain? The process where one organisms usually eat the another organisms. Clear? So generally you know what is producers, right? Which bring energy from the non-living sources into the community. Then we have got the primary consumer, the herbivore, which will feed on the producers. All right. So primary consumers eat the producers, which makes them herbivore in most community, that we know usually. Then we have got the secondary consumers, right, which will eat the primary consumers and which make them carnivore, right. Then we have got the tertiary consumers which eat the secondary consumers. All right. And in some of the food chains there is a fourth consumer level, but rarely a fifth one you will find, which are called the apex predator. Okay. Now the question comes, why are energy pyramid shaped the way they are? Now, these are most important questions. Why the energy pyramids shaped the way they are? Clear? These are the most important questions. Now, generally, an energy pyramid shape shows how the amount of useful energy enters the each tropic level. How much amount of energy that are useful will enter the tropic level. Because chemical energy is stored in the form of food by the plant by the process of photosynthesis. Clear? And this energy will decrease when it will be transferred from one level to the another level. That is when the energy goes from the producer to the herbivore, then to the secondary consumer, then to the tertiary consumer, this chemical energy will decrease. Okay. So the energy which is being taken up used by the living organisms in order to perform different types of life supporting processes, to perform different types of physiological processes. And in that process a small amount of energy will be lost in the form of heat. For example, let's say in case human being we are performing respirations, locomotion. All right, for it we require energy, so a little amount of energy will be lost for that process. In plants we can say there will be transpirations, they are performing photosynthesis, right? So even during that process energy is being lost. So a small amount of energy will be lost due to the different life supporting processes or the physiological processes which are being carried out by the living organisms. All right. And generally we know that an average of 90% of the energy entering each steps of the food chain is lost. That's why we are saying 10% flow of energy. That means among 100% of energy available in each tropic level, only 10% of energy will be transferred from one level to another level. The remaining 90% of energy will be lost in the form of heat. Okay, so the consumers at the top of a food pyramid as a group thus have less energy available. So when we compare producer, herbivore, omnivore, and carnivore, so carnivore will receive a little amount of energy as compared to omnivore. Omnivore will receive a little amount of energy as compared to herbivore, and herbivore will receive a little amount of energy as compared to producers. Okay, so that is why the numbers are relatively few in most communities. The number of carnivores is to be very few in number, all right, in case of the tropic level. And eventually the amount of useful energy left cannot support the another level. That is why the energy flow is depicted in the shape of a pyramid. So after the carnivore, or after the, let's say, tertiary carnivore or apex predator, we don't find any organisms at the top. You get confused. This is the producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and in certain food chain, even after this you will find the apex predator. But after the apex predator, you don't find any type of organisms, because the energy that is available after that is not sufficient to support the life supporting processes. So that's why always we'll find the shape of a the flow of energy always in the shape of a pyramid. Clear? Now the pyramid gives a logical explanation as to why the earth can support more people if they at lower tropic levels. Clear? Now the most important thing over here is to remember the flow of energy and the 10% law of energy. Okay, so I'm telling you that energy pyramid is the graphical representations of the loss of energy at its tropic level. The producers will capture, let's say it will capture the solar energy, and that energy will be utilized to perform the process of photosynthesis. They will convert the solar energy into chemical energy that will be stored in the form of food. Clear? Now that solar energy will be converted into chemical energy and stored in the form of food by the help of producers. Now, when the herbivore will feed on the producers, then most of the energy will be lost in the form of heat. So, among 100%, 90% will be lost in the form of heat. Only 10% will be available to the next tropic level, that is herbivore. Then again from the herbivore, only 10% of energy will go to the omnivore. Rest will lost in the form of heat in order to perform different physiological functions. Similarly, when the carnivore will feed on the omnivore, only a small amount of energy will be available. Only 10% energy will be available, rest will be lost in the form of heat. That's why always will find the energy pyramid or the flow of energy always in the shape of a pyramid. Clear? And in most of the tropic level, beyond let's say beyond tertiary consumer, we will find the apex predator. But after that, we don't find any tropic level, because the energy that is available is not sufficient to support any life supporting processes. Clear? This is the most important thing. So remember the energy flow and the energy pyramid. Clear? And for that, you have to remember the tropic level. And tropic level we have done already in our previous classes, so go through it. Go through the food chain, food web. All right, now next one, let's talk about the nutrient cycle or the biogeochemical cycle. So what is nutrient cycle? It is a concept that traces the flow of nutrient from the physical environment to the living organisms and again back to the environment. That means the nutrients which are present in the physical environment are being utilized by the living organisms, by the plant and the animals, and again they are being given back to the environment. So this is called the nutrient cycle. All right, now the cycles are under the control, let's say it's under the direct control or indirectly under the control of solar energy, because solar energy is the most important one which supports all the life in our ecosystem. Okay, so every living organisms requires a large number of nutrients for its survival, we can say. Okay, we can say like some of these cycles are, let's say, nutrients. It can be carbon, okay, we have nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. So we'll go through it one by one. We'll go through the nitrogen cycles, we'll go through the carbon cycles, all right, we'll go through oxygen cycles also. Okay, so these cycles we'll deal one by one, but today we'll simply deal with the nitrogen cycles only. But before that, remember the law of tolerance. What do you mean by law of tolerance? It says that the existence, abundance, and the distribution of a species. One more time, the existence, abundance, and distribution of a species is determined by the levels of one or more physical or chemical factor. All right, by the presence of physical factor which will fall within the range tolerated by that species. That means the distribution of the species, the occurrence of any species, the abundance of a species in a particular habitat, in a particular ecosystem is under the control of physical or chemical factor. All right, which an organism can tolerate or organism can resist. If the organisms cannot tolerate those physical factors or chemical factors, then they cannot survive or they cannot exist in a particular ecosystems. Clear? So those physical factors, those chemical factors has to fall within the range, within a level which the species can tolerate, and this will determine the existence, abundance, and distribution of a species in a given ecosystem. Well, let's begin with the nitrogen cycles, which is one of the most important nutrient cycles in the ecosystem. All right. So nitrogen is essential for the synthesis of protein. Although 78% of nitrogen is present in the air, but it cannot be utilized directly by the living organisms, or let's say by the plant, for the protein synthesis. Okay, so these nitrogens, it has to become soluble in order to be utilized by the plants. All right, it has to be changed into nitrate and ammonium ion so that it can be utilized by the plant in order to synthesize the protein. So this conversion of nitrogen into its usable form, into soluble form, into ammonium ion, into nitrate is known as nitrogen fixation. Clear? So what is nitrogen fixation? I'm telling you that the air contains 78% of nitrogen, but it is not available to the plant. That means the plant cannot utilize those nitrogens directly. Okay, so this nitrogen has to be changed into its usable form, into nitrates, into ammonium ion, so that it can be utilized by the plant for the synthesis of protein. So therefore the process of conversion of nitrogen into the usable form, into ammonium ion, into nitrate, is known as nitrogen fixation. So nitrogen fixation can be brought about by any one of the following means. So what are those means? All right, by which means the atmospheric nitrogens can be fixed or can be utilized by the plant. First one, during lightning and rain, nitrogen combines with oxygen and dissolves in water to enter the soil as nitrate. So first of all, nitrogens come in contact with the oxygen during lightning, during the rainfall, and it will be changed into nitrates. Okay, so nitrogen is being converted into nitrates. Then nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil, like rhizobium, which you have done in your previous classes, it will convert the atmospheric nitrogens into its usable form, that into ammonium ion, into nitrates. Okay, then burning of fossil fuels will convert the nitrogen into its oxides, which are therefore being converted into nitrates. Then industries, under high temperature, under high pressure, nitrogen is converted into ammonium ion, which is then changed into ammonium salt. So these are the different means by which the nitrogen fixation can occur. Clear? Now, mainly plant use the nitrogen taken in order to make the proteins. Animals, on the other hand, get the share of nitrogen by consuming living or dead organic matter. So, therefore, in the ecosystem, nitrogen is stored in all the organic matter. So, when a plant or animal dies, or whenever these organisms will expel its waste products or excreta, it is acted upon by the nitrogen fixing bacteria, where it will convert this nitrogen into ammonium ion. All right, and this process is known as ammonification. So the conversion of nitrogen into ammonia is known as ammonification or mineralization. So remember, what is ammonification? The conversion of nitrogens by the action of nitrogen fixing bacteria into ammonia is known as ammonification. Now this ammonia is given back to the atmosphere as free nitrogens by the action of denitrifying bacteria. So just look at the figure. Okay, so mainly in the air you can see the fossil fuel emissions give nitrogens, right? There will be precipitations. Now due to precipitations, the nitrogen present in the air will come back to the soil in the form of nitrates. Clear? Now those nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soils will fix those nitrogens into nitrates, into ammonium ion. okay, and that will be utilized by the living organisms. Now whenever the living organisms will die, all right, whenever it will acted upon by the bacteria, then they will release the oxides of nitrogen into the air. So you can see over here the process. Look over here, we are using the fertilizers, right? And during the using fertilizers, there will be runoff of those nitrogens, all right, into the water, which lead to eutrophications. There will be growth of algae in the water body, okay. Or let's say those nitrogens can be consumed by the plant. There will be plant consumptions. Clear? Now we can see the animal over here. The animals will utilize those plant. They will consume those plants, and during this process you can see over here organic matter. That means there will be excreta given out by these animals. So animals will feed on the plant, all right, because plants are using the nitrogen present in the soils, and whenever the animals feeds on the plants, then the animal contains those nitrates, those ammonium ions present in the plant. Now plant animals gives out those waste products, those excreta. Clear? And during that process the bacteria will convert those nitrogen into ammonia, which is called ammonification or mineralization. So there will be formation of ammonium ion, okay. Then from ammonia there will be formation of nitrites, then there will be formation of nitrates, which is called nitrification. The conversion of nitrites to nitrates, it's called nitrification. Clear? And these nitrates will be again utilized by the plant, again goes to the animal, or it will be directly released into the air. So nitrogen is being utilized by the living organisms, but ultimately is also being given out into the atmosphere from where it is coming. So this is known as our nitrogen cycle, okay. This is most important one. Now impact of main actions on nitrogen cycles. First one, burning of fossil fuel introduces oxide of nitrogen into the air, which causes acid rain. All right. So first of all, there will be formation of acid rains. Number two, anaerobic bacteria. That means those bacteria which can survive in the absence of oxygen. All right. They act on animal waste in livestock ranches form nitrous oxide. So anaerobic bacteria which acts on the waste products of the animals, they will form the nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas, and which will cause the global warming. Deforestation, cutting down of trees, leads to the release of waste or vast stores of nitrogen stored in the plant in soil. Agricultural runoff leads to eutrophications, where there will be growth of algae on the water body. There will be algal bloom. There will be growth of a vast number of unwanted plants on the water body. Clear? So that this also leads to the growth of those unwanted plants or the algal bloom, which is called eutrophications, which will decrease the level of oxygen in the water body and lead to the death of aquatic plants and animals. Harvesting of crops removes nitrogen from the topsoil, making it infertile. So these are the impact of main actions of nitrogen cycles. Clear? So today we have just simply talked about flow of energy. We are talking about energy pyramid, and we have done about the nutrient cycles. On the nutrient cycle we have simply talked about the nitrogen cycle. So in the next class we'll continue with the nutrient cycles, and we'll learn about carbon cycle, we'll learn about phosphorus cycles, and we'll learn about hydrological cycles. Clear? So this much for today. See you in next class. Thank you.